What is going on, fight fans? Welcome. So happy you are here for multiple reasons. This should be a fun show today. Not only are we going to break down UFC 312 coming your way from Sydney, Australia. Is it the worst pay-per-view of all time? Maybe we'll debate that. We'll take a look. Matty's shaking his head, yes. But also a special one because mid-show, we've got a sweat. Of course, it's not UFC, it's not MMA, but the NFL awards are going on right now, and I have maybe the most interesting man on X right there to my left right now. Matty Tanner sitting at 30-1 Saquon Barkley for Offensive Player of the Year ticket. We'll find out during the show if it cashes. So, Matty, your thoughts right now as you potentially have $30K in the bank if Saquon ends up getting the nod as the Offensive Player of the Year.
I think it's hidden, bro. I think it's hidden. I mean, he's like 98%, 99%. I'll be shocked if it doesn't hit. You know, I think he's all the numbers to hit it, but he also has the storyline and the narrative behind him. He could have got the record if they really wanted to go for it, but at the end of the day, they wanted a Super Bowl, and here they are. So I'm going Saquon, Offensive Player of the Year. The only thing I'm mad about is I didn't put more on it, but that's gambling.
Yeah, no, I mean, $1,000 on 30-1 is quite a bit, at least to me anyway. Like, I think working in your favor, Jamar Chase had a great year, but the Bengals didn't win very much. The Eagles are in the Super Bowl. I've been joking with my buddies, an Eagles fan, birds in the bowl. We are aligned. I'm rooting for the not Chiefs. You're rooting for the Eagles, so we're aligned for Sunday's big game as well. But before we get to Sunday, we have Saturday to cover. 13 fights, UFC 312. Pay-per-views have been pretty kind to us in recent history, so I'm excited to at least get back behind a paywall. But Matty, the quality of this card is not great. We've got Justin Tafa in the third to last fight on the card. So your overall impressions of the card before we dive in about, how do you feel about it from a gambling perspective?
I'm not going to complain, bro. Like, it's not the greatest pay-per-view, obviously. It's more of a fight night card, but, if we hit a cycle parlay, then it doesn't matter how good or bad the card is, A bad card to me is when we lose. That's it. A good card is when we slap their heads, so. We just got to win, and it's a great card. That's all there is to it. But people complain when there's no card, so be happy there's a card.
That's true. I was only able to model 2 fights this week. You can probably guess which ones, main event, co-main event, where the titles are on. There's just not enough data.
2?
There's not enough data, so it's
That's
like
wild.
I think that does leave us some wiggle room to get creative, but we want to do it in intelligent spots as well. So we'll see what we can come up with. We go through the prelims, which we will start doing so right now. A flyweight bout between Young Sung Park taking on Naim Jargal, Tumendemberel. Easy for me to say. Tumendemberel, actually a cycle alum for us. We went submission in our parlay back in UFC Shanghai. Did not end up coming through for us. And then Young Sung Park coming off a knockout win over Shannon Ross, which a few different guys have been able to say. So this is a 125 bout between a couple of road to UFC alums, Matty. Park minus 225 here. I'm guessing it's because of how Tumendemberel's debut bet went, but God, do we go back to the well again here with a Tumendemberel cycle lay, or what do you think about this fight, man?
What? Say that again?
Do we go back to the well with a Tumendemberel cycle lay already? Like, can we possibly put him in there again?
Yeah, probably not. Yeah, no, this is a tough one. What do we have? We have the decision on that one?
We had him by submission against Carlos Hernandez, and really, it was kind of unfortunate he got controlled on the mat himself.
Yeah, that was a bad fucking lay. And he had Andre Lima that got canceled. That would have been, I think he would have got beat down in that fight too.
Mm-hmm.
That fight was canceled. It was supposed to be June 1st. But yeah, no, I like Park in this fight. Possibly by decision. I think he's gonna have a good speed advantage on the feet here. He's 1 decision win, 0 losses, 4 KO wins, 0 losses. His KO win recently is against Shannon Ross, so it's like, what do you really get from that? So
Right.
I just think he's gonna outpoint him on the feet here. So I like Park by decision.
Yeah, this is a really tough fight for me because, and we'll talk about it a few times, I am left with my head in my hands about Road to UFC, bro. I thought Rinya Nakamura was a really strong, high-level prospect, and he goes out there and gets absolutely dominated by Yuyin Gafarov in his last fight, and it's like Gafarov is at best a journeyman, and now all of a sudden I've got 2 of these alums. Now, Tumendemberel fought Carlos Hernandez, really solid, well put together veteran, like you said. Definitely, I think the tougher debut opponent of these 2, and that might be why Hyun-Sung was able to perform better. I think you had speed written down. I have that as well. I think Park is a lot faster. That was one thing I noted about Tumendemberel, which I got some pronunciation help from our boy Jewish Better. Tumendemberel. What can I do with some of these names, man? But he definitely looks slow in his debut, and Park is a guy that looked lightning quick. I am curious to see what the total is on this fight, whether odds makers are expecting a finish, bro. But this is another one of these fights I'm looking at. I'm reminding myself I do not have to bet every fight, and I think I might just want to date it on this one.
Fair enough. Yeah, no, I agree with you. What is Park by decision?
So it might be decent because under 2.5 here, -142. So odds makers favoring a finish. Park by decision +290, second most likely outcome. Knockout first most likely.
Interesting.
And then sub for Park at +460, and then you'll get 5-1 on any better individual outcome for Tumendemberel as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the +290, bro. That's actually something I might even look at for my card here. Not for the cycle, but I might take a look at that for my card.
I would want to investigate. So Park is currently sitting at 2.6 submission attempts per 15 minutes. Again, this is where I get myself in so much trouble with these Road to the UFC guys. The stats are all made up. It's like, you remember Whose Line Is It Anyway? The points are made up and it doesn't matter. That's how I feel about the Road to UFC stats, because it's against guys who are literal butchers and janitors and guys that otherwise wouldn't be anywhere close to UFC levels. So I have to be so careful being like, well, submission tendency against a guy that grapples, because it really doesn't mean hardly anything. So I wish I had more for you guys on this first fight, but this is one of 2 where I look at it and kind of just throw my hands in the air.
Fair enough, bro.
All righty, let's move forward here to one maybe we can get a little bit more concrete on. I actually do like this one a little bit better. Quillen Salkilld taking on Anshul Jubli, the people's champion, Anshul Jubli, a lightweight. This 155 battle, this is an interesting debut spot for Salkilld. We saw him on the Contender Series last season, and then Jubli was a guy wins Road to UFC against Jekka Sergey. Really high expectations, pretty big favorite against Mike Breeden. Ends up getting stopped in the 3rd round after he noticeably slowed down in this fight. So Jubli's been on this big, long layoff, and now he's got to come back as a pretty distant underdog on the road now in Australia against Salkilld. Salkilld didn't finish his guy on the Contender Series either, so I think there is a little ambiguity here, but nonetheless, Quillen is the largest favorite on the card right now, currently -650 on FanDuel. So what do you think of this fight, Matty? Any impressions on either one of these guys?
Not a ton. What is your preferred, assuming you go Quillen here, what is your preferred method of victory? I was looking at this last night.
I like Salkilld sub, I think, if I like a particular
that's exactly what I have written down here.
That's awesome, because I think when you look at Jubli, and he ended up getting a ground and pound finish on Sergey. Sergey to me is a white belt, so I wasn't really putting a lot of stock into that. Has a striking match with Breeden, and Salkilld really showed like he knew what he was doing in the grappling on Contender Series. He scored 9 takedowns, added a submission attempt at one point, and honestly think I like when Contender Series fights go longer, because then you get a larger data sample. Some of Salkild's metrics, except for head defense, are pretty impressive, and Jubli's not a guy with a ton of power. So I think this is a good matchup for Quillen, and I do think he gets, I'm thinking like 1-2 sub is kind of what I had written down here, but I didn't want to be too chalky and too square, I guess.
No, I like it, bro. I had that written down last night. I think it just came on the board today, though. It's a +250 by submission. I was waiting to see what that number came in at.
We love subs in that +200 to +350 range.
You know what's funny is there's a good 2 to 3 subs on this card that I think are going to give us some options for the cycle. We'll have to
Yeah.
decide which one we like the best, but
Right.
there's quite a few of them I actually like. I actually think this card could be a good submission special type of parlay as well, because last card wasn't, right?
No, and so the problem is if we make a cycle for the show and there's no submission on the card at all, we're screwed. Like we couldn't have done anything. That was what happened last week in Saudi Arabia.
11 fights, and then not one sub. You're mucked.
Yeah, but I agree with you that I actually have. Let's see how many sub. I have 2 potentials and then 2 that I really like on this card as well. So that's very interesting that you also think it's a pretty sub-heavy card.
I mean, this guy's got a handful of rear naked chokes, prior to the UFC.
And I just think strength and physicality is going to be but 2 huge arrows in his direction here. To me, this is a guy that is very big and strong for this weight class against a guy in Jubli who I really have questions about his physicality.
Yeah.
We'll bookmark that, I guess. So let's do it, dude. I like Salkilld. I really did in his decision. It was a good fight. It was a good scrap, and it was good to negate date on him as well. So why don't we keep moving forward? We'll keep the theme of Aussies coming off the Contender Series rolling at 170 here with Jonathan Micallef coming in. He is coming off a first-round submission on the Contender Series last season against Mohamed Ado. Kevin Jousset on the other side, we've seen him a couple of times. Last time we saw him he was on the wrong side of you didn't think the Butcher was going to lose to a French dude with a second-round TKO. You were there in person for that card, so you saw Jousset up close and personal. He didn't lose a lot of supporters in the odds makers, Marty. He's minus 260 here against Micallef debuting. What do you think about Jousset in this spot?
So this is another spot where if you're fading Jousset, you could look at the sub, but I think Jousset's gonna look pretty solid in this matchup. I think he's gonna be able to keep it on the ground or keep it on the feet, and I think he's gonna be able to have his way in the striking. I kind of like Jousset by decision here, or maybe even a late TKO.
Interesting. I was going to say, I had a hypothesis about if we lean one way or another on this fight, it's because you and I have been split on our trajectory on Bryan Battle. I think you really like him. I'm not as high on him. And so that almost kind of devies how we feel about this at odds. Interesting, this line hasn't really moved all week, where Jousset's just kind of stayed put in this realm. And I don't really know what public opinion is here. Like, are people fading Jousset off that fight against Battle, or are they looking to buy him low? I think it's a great question we got in the comments. Can we trust him after his last fight? But this matchup's so different. Like, Micallef was able to, he was able to get things to the ground. We barely have any distance sample at all. And interestingly, this is really the first time Jousset has faced a guy that probably wants to take him down, because Song Kanen not going to take him down. And then in his debut, he actually submitted Kiefer Crosby, who's more of a striker as well. So I don't think that Jousset has really faced a wrestling threat yet. So he could look plus 500 in this fight. He could look minus 500 in this fight. I really don't know how it is. City Kickboxing doesn't have a lot of momentum right now. I'm leaning dog shot here with very minimal conviction.
I'm leaning buy low spot here.
Yeah.
I think buy low spot here. I mean, I don't think he looked bad in that fight against Bryan Battle. I mean, the first round was very competitive, and even the second round before he just got – I mean, Battle just kept marching forward.
Yeah.
And even the finish wasn't even brutal. It was kind of like I don't want to say the word early stoppage because it wasn't, but, it was on the feet. It was a standing TKO. Like, I think this is a good bounce back buy low spot for Kevin Jousset here.
Yeah, I'm really going to have to dig into some of the regional stuff with Micallef and see how I feel about his striking, because we didn't hardly see any of it. Interesting, he's got a couple inches in reach here, whereas Jousset is usually the longer guy in this division. So I am a little concerned. Jousset has been very hittable thus far, even though he got the better of Song Kanen. Bryan Battle, he nearly 7 significant strikes absorbed per minute right now. So that's very hittable. I think it's a little bit of a red flag, but Jousset's experience is also worth something here, so I don't have a strong opinion here.
Yeah, that's fair, bro.
I don't think we're throwing that guy in the cycle one way or another. But
absolutely not.
All righty, we'll move on then. We'll see if we can find maybe a cycle leg in this next guy up here. Keeping with the Contender Series thing, which, by the way, guys, is going to be all throughout this show. There's just not a lot of experience on some of these, especially as we get through like the featured prelim or so. Is the first time you start to see real UFC vets. But Cody Steele's coming off the Contender Series last year. He's taken on a guy in Rongzhu that is now 1 in 4 tries. He lost via that doctor stoppage against Chris Padilla. I ended up actually cashing in that one 10-1 on Taco Padilla knockout. It was a little bit lucky because of the doctor stoppage. I don't think he was going to get him out of there without it. But we'll see if Rongzhu can get back in the win column. It's kind of amazing. It feels like he's been in UFC for 3 or 4 years now, but he is only 24 years old against a guy in Steele who, if I heard of him before the Contender Series, is probably a pretty high-level prospect. So, Matty, do you think this is a prop-up spot on a pay-per-view for Steele, or are you kind of leaning maybe Rongzhu might be undervalued because he's faced some pretty tough competition?
I love Cody Steele here, bro. I'm a big Cody Steele guy. I'm hoping I can sell you, but this is a potential cycle lay for me. Cody Steele by submission.
Okay.
It's a very big cycle opportunity for me. Dude, do you see how many grappling matches this guy's had since 2020? It's like 20 it's like 20 some matches.
He's an awesome grappler.
Wagner, RoboCop, he's grappling high level guys. To me, I mean, the submission number, let's see here, I wrote it down. This is a perfect spot for him to showcase it, I think. Against a guy who's been submitted 4 times in his career, plus 380. That's a juicy number to me. I don't understand why that number is so big. The KO's plus 240, the most likely outcome of the fight, and him by decision is plus 290. Basically, all 3 method of victories for him are the 3 most likely methods in the entire fight, which is pretty crazy in a fight that isn't that wide. I mean, he's minus 240. I like Cody Steele inside the distance here. I also like the submission. I don't even mind a round 2-3 sprinkle as well.
Yeah, it definitely is odd that Steele only has 1 pro win by submission, right? Because I think of him as a grappling guy. He got the standing KO in the Contender Series, which might explain some of this line and why it sits with KO lower. I don't really have I do like Cody Steele in some sort of dominant fashion. So if you really loved Steele sub and wanted to toss it in the cycle, I'd have no issue with it. I just get him kind of out on Rongzhu. It feels to me like he always kind of underperforms against any sort of high level competitor. And Steele, like you said, high level grappling guy, has been grappling on Fight Pass for years, comes into the Contender Series, gets the dominant finish. And Rongzhu's been submitted in UFC. Ignacio Bahamondes got him with a ghillie in the 3rd round in a fight that he was dominating on the feet here. I think club and sub is live here. Getting him to the ground and subbing him that way would be live here. The one thing that I will say is that I think Rongzhu's been very durable, so I think standing KO could be kind of tough. I was leaning decision, Matty, but sub is not a bad take whatsoever.
I mean, if you're Cody Steele, you're fighting a guy who's 14-1. Opponents the past 4 years. It's like you're fighting a guy who literally has knocked out 14 guys and only has been knocked out once. It's like implement the grappling, get these takedowns and find a submission. So I just like the number at plus 380. I thought it would have been like plus 250 or so.
Yeah, I think the ground is his path of least resistance as well, Matty. So I'm very willing to bookmark that. Are you kind of surprised that Steele's only like minus 245 on the money line here?
Not really, but just because this guy's fought some decent competition. I mean, nothing crazy, but Ignacio Bahamondes is legit. He was getting whooped on the feet though. Whooped.
Yeah.
I just looked at that number 126 to 48.
Yeah. I mean, like, and was outstruck by nearly 20 strikes by.
You're right. Yeah, you're right. Minus 245 does feel cheap.
Yeah, I mean, like
numbers, bro.
I kind of had Cody written down as a guy that if I was going to take a money line on the safe parlay this week. By the way, RIP safe parlay streak. Sergey Pavlovich made sure of that. I had him round 1, 2, and he decided to fart around with whatever that was against Jairzinho Rosenstrike. But I just kind of like Steele's money line here. Thinking when I look at. Should he be a much bigger favorite than Kevin Jousset? To me, yes, just because Micallef's upside, his athleticism, he's the hometown guy in that fight. I feel like Cody Steele's almost he had a weird last minute Cody Steele was supposed to fight the guy who ended up quitting on the Contender Series. I forget the guy's name, Brazilian guy. They had to push him down a couple weeks. It was like a short notice bout, and he still looked great. So I think he's a total.
That's right. No, that's right, dude. I think he's as well rounded as it gets.
Yeah, I do too.
I mean, he can do it all, bro.
I think the one concern I have him in is like a prospect in general is he's a little undersized for modern lightweight, but just a little bit. That's all.
Yeah.
And I don't think it matters against the guy in Rongzhu. The thing Rongzhu does do well is defend takedowns. It's 85%, but a lot of that came from Road to UFC and a bunch of sloppy takedown attempts from guys who aren't caliber UFC. So I think Cody Steele can still get into the ground.
Fair enough, bro.
All righty. We'll bookmark that one. I'm glad we're on the same page there. I guess I'll let you tell me what page we're going to be on here, because I think this is the hardest fight to bet on the entire card here. Alexander Topuria, minus 400 favorite over Colby Thicknesse, who is Alex Volkanovski's premier training partner. So we get a little preview of Topuria Volkanovski too, which isn't official yet, but it kind of was rumored to be going on here. We got Ilya's brother against Alex Volkanovski's training partner, but instead odds makers have a big lean toward Ilya's brother in this spot. So what do you think of this fight? Because I was talking about it with some of the Homo Fights picks guys, like trying to make sure I wasn't taking crazy pills. Like, what are your impressions of Topuria in this spot that UFC's put him in?
I mean, look, he's fought basically nobody. He's on record saying he's in the UFC because of Ilya. So, like, he's not dumb. He knows, he understands, why he's even in this position.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you look at these odds and you're like, Topuria by KO is plus 140. It's the most likely outcome of the fight. And then you just kind of go off of what you hear about Merab and all these guys that train with these guys. And some people are saying that his power is even bigger than Ilya's and that he's the real deal and he's legit, And then you look at his record, it's like, yeah, he's fighting cans, but he's winning in round one pretty much every fight.
Sure.
So it's like at least he's doing what he's supposed to do in those fights, even though they're low-level competition. I think he's going to find the knockout. I think he's going to find it, but I'm definitely not willing to pay a premium on his money line. That's for damn sure. You're paying a premium based off of his last name and the hype behind him, definitely. But if I had to gun to my head, what do I bet on this fight? I go to Topuria by KO at plus 140.
Yeah. I totally understand that perspective. I earlier in the week was leaning toward, oh my God, Topuria's record is awful. He shouldn't be minus 400. I'm going to have to end up betting Thicknesse here at some sort of mark, whatever it would end up with. But then you look at Thicknesse, you turn on his tape, very limited in the striking department, ugly even in spots. And it's like, yes, the chin hasn't bit him yet, but he's also not been fighting the super highest level of power and of competition. And frankly, when I hear things like Merab saying, he's better than me and things like that, I tend to fade that sort of BS. I feel like fighters talk and say random stuff all the time, and it influences betting markets in situations like this where we don't have a lot of data. But at the same time here, I could totally, if I bet Thicknesse and all of a sudden Topuria absolutely boxes him up for a first round knockout, I'll feel like an idiot because I saw it on tape. I saw that he probably does have a substantial advantage there. I just have to ask myself, it's like, do I have to bet this fight at all? I think I am going to pass on it, but like I was mentioning with the Homo Fight Picks guys earlier this week, I'm like, occasionally you see a Walter Walker who comes into UFC, has a little bit of success himself. But a lot of times it looks like Francisco Figueiredo or Antonina Shevchenko or Alex Reyes, brother of Dom, Herbert Burns, and Dan Miller, brother of Jim. So, like, none of those guys had successful careers. They made it to UFC because of their brother, and they didn't end up belonging. I will say the thing that interests me, he was originally scheduled to fight Cody Haddon, and I think Cody Haddon's a really good prospect. Already got a win in UFC late last year. That was an interesting first matchup, and now he's a big favorite over Thicknesse. So odds makers at least think he's much better than this entry level. So it'll be interesting.
You know what that number would have been in that fight?
Let's see if we do have I'm gonna try to pull up historical odds and see if we had.
Cody Haddon beat Dan Argueta.
Exactly. Let's see if we got a number.
Distance with Steve Erceg.
They don't have him in the database here, unfortunately.
Yeah. I bet you that would have been like.
I got it.
Been closer to like minus 150.
Yeah, I got. Okay, so you ready for this? It looks like Haddon was minus 155 against Alexander Topuria.
That
So
would have
had
got so much money. Money would have poured in on Topuria as a dog.
right, if nothing for last name.
Yeah,
But like
just
I think that at the very least we can assume training with guys like Merab and Ilya, if Topuria's takedown defense is pretty good and he can keep his feet in this fight, I do think there's a good chance he ends up winning it.
Yeah. Well, it seems like he has wrestling, he has power. Have you seen the one clip of him? It's like a civilian, like he's just messing around with some random kid, but he lets the kid like wind up a big liver shot on him and it doesn't phase him. And then Topuria hits him with a left, like to the body, right in the liver. And this kid goes down, like rolling on the floor, screaming the amount of power that just hit him with that liver shot.
Wow.
I mean, obviously it doesn't mean much because it's, it's just some random kid, but I don't know, bro. I feel like, I feel like he's going to be the real deal, but again, we don't know until we see it.
Yeah. So for lineup DFS, which I don't know if you've ever seen lineup DFS, another site has it, FanDuel has it, where you like pick 6 fighters and they score fantasy points. If you see, I didn't know if I was going to play Topuria and Tumendemberel or if I was going to go with who's the favorite in that. If I was going to go with Youngsung Park and then punt to Thicknesse. I'm kind of leaning Topuria now for like early knockout upside. I think it's very possible. That's the most niche thing. Maybe some guys in our comments, you guys make lineups on FanDuel or the other guys, and you play that every week, but it's kind of a decision you have to make. It's like, which favorites do I lean? Which underdogs do I lean? You've kind of sold me on, I think Topuria early is the angle here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fair enough.
So we'll circle back to that. God, can you imagine if we put Ilya's brother in this weird fight in the cycle? Probably not.
I mean, nah. But would it shock you if he just starts them in round 1?
Topuria?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely not. Thicknesse's striking footage is horrific. I was talking to Hayden about it. It's
almost one of those things where you're like, when you really look at it, like the next day you're going to be like, damn, I could have got plus money on the KO against a guy who doesn't even strike well. Like,
yeah,
we're going to look back at it and be like, fuck, that was, but again, who knows? Now, something to think about. Topuria, Ilya went the distance in his first fight in the UFC, right? It was with Jousset.
He did. Something
to think about, but Zalal's a monster. Like, that dude is the real deal.
Yeah. I mean, Thicknesse could end up being pretty good. When you look at his resume and you look at how well he can wrestle and grapple at the Hex level, he's a guy that looks like he could have got a Contender Series shot this upcoming summer. But, like, it depends where Topuria's level is. It's a very interesting fight to bet. I will say FanDuel has a prop available to KO round 1 or 2 for Topuria plus 180. That's a darn good number for a minus 400 favorite that's a striker.
Yeah. Interesting.
So, and that's 1 or 2. Interesting. So we'll move forward without much consensus, but it's cool that we're leaning the same way. But Matty, we next we need to move on, and we kind of need to have an intervention because you and I were all about the Joker, Cong Wang in Shanghai. Yeah, I wish I had a hat to pull over my head because really the sad thing about that is she was dominating her fight.
She looked fantastic in that fight, bro.
And she got caught.
She almost played with her food a little bit in a way.
Yeah.
It's like she looked so good. Like, I don't have any regrets. And now it's like, well, are we getting a buy low spot? But we're also going against the fighting nerds here.
Yeah.
There's a lot to think about, but man, this could be one of those massive buy low spots. You think of like, this is obviously such a different level of women's MMA, but you think about like when Amanda Nunes gets caught, comes back out, and she went from a minus 1,500 favorite, minus 2,000 favorite, comes back out in a rematch and is like minus 400 against Juliana Pena, whatever the number was. And obviously this isn't a rematch and it's a completely different scenario, but it's women's MMA. You go from some monster favorite where you're untouchable until your next fight, you come back. And what's the number? I can't read that from here.
It's minus 480. Yeah.
Minus 480. Right.
Yeah.
She might look minus 1,500 in this fight,
Yeah.
But Bruna Brasil, you just don't really know what you're going to get because she's actually looked good recently.
Right. She was able to get the takedowns going against Molly McCann. The thing that I will say, and unfortunately our graphic there is wrong, and this is kind of a tough fight, though, for the graphic guys. Bruno's moving up to 125 for this fight. She fought Molly at strawweight. She's been fighting at strawweight the entire time when she fought I think it was D. Gomes she had. It was either her or Lucindo. I get them confused. Yeah, it was D. Gomes that she fought. She fought Luke Boonme, ended up losing at distance. Cong Wang's kind of a Terminator at 125. She's got big time power. We've seen some of the submission stuff. I feel like an idiot. Maybe I'm going back to the well here, but inside the distance plus 180 sounds like a darn good number to me, Matty. Like I
agree,
mean,
bro.
I mean, she's so powerful, and I think you're right that learning from that moment where she kind of was playing with her food, she clearly is she's not overly serious all the time. Like she likes to have a good time. She likes to play up the theatrics, right? And she got caught. And that happened to Michelle Pereira back in the day, too, against Tristan Conley. He was doing backflips and all this random stuff in the cage. And you kind of learned that you have to respect people at this level. But I think she's going to have a big size, big strength advantage here. And Matty, when I texted you about the Joker this week, I was kind of wondering, I was trying to sniff if you were thinking about buying her again here. Because the fact she's minus 480 after burning so many people again, I think odds makers have a great deal of confidence here. To me, it all has all to do with Bruna. Bruna's getting better, but she's moving up in weight here against someone who is probably a ranked 125er. So I understand minus 480, and I'm going to play her inside the distance again.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I think moving up in weight in this matchup's a big deal against a power puncher and someone who's fast and has good striking and power on the feet.
Yep. I
got to lean right back to the KO here, though. You know, I mean, I get the inside the distance number, but I mean, we've seen Bruno Brazil get hurt by strikes. We haven't seen her put away by submission. Con by KO is plus 250. Yeah. Now, plus submission by submission is 11-1, bro.
That's interesting. And she really hasn't shown that tendency since she left Road to UFC. So I buy that.
I'll tell you one thing. If she hurts Bruno Brazil and she shoots a takedown, she's getting guillotined. At 11-1, I almost have to sprinkle on that, bro. I know she has mounted guillotine back in 2024. She has a rear naked choke back in 2022. I just think it's going to come down to what Bruna does when she's getting tagged.
Yeah.
And if she shoots forward with a takedown attempt, I see it so clearly. I kind of want to sprinkle that long shot. But then again, you kind of have the luxury of playing inside the distance because that sub is so long.
Yeah. Interesting. Cong Wang points plus 105, the shortest outcome here. So odds makers, given the benefit of the doubt, it goes the distance. And Bruna's last 3 fights have gone the distance as well. But like, I don't think that Fernandez fight was trending toward going the distance before she got caught. I thought she was eventually going to find the finish on Gabby at some point, the way she was taking the center and really pressing forward. To me, it was one of the most stunning upsets in women's MMA history, just because how good Joker looked in that fight, and then got caught and eventually subbed. But
yeah, no,
would we dare go back to her by knockout again in the cycle? Because she prefers to strike.
Is that where it was? I can't see that.
Yeah, so this was our one from China.
We got cooked anyways on Ricci.
Yeah. And none of those legs ended up hitting.
That was a miserable cycle. Yeah. It's so rare that we have a cycle like that where it's just completely off. Yeah. Like usually the fighters at least win. Like the fighters didn't even win.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that it's just so fascinating, the stock perspective of this fight, where Cong Wang's couldn't be any lower. Bruna's couldn't be any higher. She kicked Molly McCann's ass in London, right? It could not be any higher. And the odds still look like this. Like I think the dog shot at Bruna Brazil is total bait here. It feels like total bait to me.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, the answer is no. I don't think we go to it in the cycle, but it'll probably make my card for sure.
Okay. We'll take a look. I'm gonna play inside the distance because I play things safe. That's why I've got the safe parlay, but I understand where Matty's coming from. So why don't we move on to this next fight here? We got Tom Nolan taking on Vyacheslav Borshchev, our guy Slava Claus. This is an interesting spot for a young Australian prospect in Nolan, coming off a win. Did by decision, paid, what did it pay? Like 11-1 for that fight to end by decision for him to win against Alex Jesus.
That was just such a weird fight because of Alex's layoff, you know.
Exactly. And like we were all playing inside the distance. I think maybe even I had parlayed it at that point. And now on the other side here, he's got probably at least a significant step up in the striking department in Borshchev here. This line has been closing and closing all week. It's now down to right now. Borshchev is just minus 122 with Nolan coming back at minus 104. This thing might even be a pick 'em by ceremonial faceoffs. So what do you think about this fight, Matty? His money's definitely coming in on Nolan. Someone
Yeah.
likes Nolan here.
I like Nolan as well. I don't understand the Slavoclaws love. The dude got the shit beat out of him on the feet by Chase Hooper. You know, obviously Chase is well improved, is very much improved in all areas, but I just think Slavoclaws now has durability issues. I think it's kind of obvious how to beat him at this point. I think he's a little bit overrated in general. I like Tom Nolan mainly because the fraud check fight that everyone thinks the Nicholas Mota. I love Nicholas Mota. I think Nicholas is good, bro. Like you look at his last fight, he should have got a knockout. It was very close. The Manuel Torres fight's nothing to hang your head on. Jim Miller's a stud. You know, he knocks out Cameron Van Camp, knocks out Tom Nolan. He was on a 3-fight win streak prior to Jim Miller. Like, I don't think Nicholas Mota's a scrub. So I just look at that as a bump in the road for Tom Nolan. I still think he has the ability to be a good fighter in the UFC. And I think he's the fresher guy. I kind of trust, even though he got chinned by Nicholas, I still trust his chin more than Slavoclaws, who now has been in a lot of wars, it feels like. How old is him? He's 33.
He's 33, yeah.
Yeah, but like, I don't know. Maybe it's more of just a perception thing. But I just feel like he's taken a lot of damage over the last few years.
Yeah. I totally agree. I knew we were kind of going to be split here. I think I'm going to end up buying the dip with Slavoclaws here just because what I can't get out of my mind, I know the Chase Hooper moment sticks in it. Like a Chase Hooper at distance is a really, really ugly knockdown to take. The thing that I can't get out of my mind is Tom Nolan when Victor Martinez drops him. Martinez, not even a UFC level guy, has since been cut. And I'm worried that Nolan's a little bit chinny. Like I like Mota too, but interesting this fight minus 350 to not go the distance. I don't think it's crazy that there's length to this fight, but in general, I think you do have two iffy chins and two powerful guys. So probably getting an early finish. And really, if you feel like that favors the younger guy in Nolan, I understand it. But I look at Borshchev and his striking efficiency, 53% striking accuracy, 56% defense. They're both plus metrics. The win he had over James Yontop did not age poorly when we saw how Yontop fared against Rufi. He even won the last round against a Fighting Nerds guy.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think that Borshchev against a guy who is not going to take him down is always a pretty good bet. The fact that he might be an underdog by the time I do it is even more appealing. But I don't know how I feel about like a length in this fight. I think if it's longer to me, that benefits Slavoclaws, I think. So really, really interesting.
Is there a world here where Tom Nolan takes him down?
I don't think so. I haven't seen anything. He hasn't tried a takedown in any sort of UFC affiliated setting. We got a comment if you want to throw it up there. $100. Nolan doesn't shoot a takedown. He's really a striker only. I think that's what makes this such good matchmaking. Is that I think that's the general conventional thinking is does Nolan end up shooting for a takedown? Because if you have the ability to take Slavoclaws down, that's the easiest place to beat him. I just don't know if it's there. But it is an interesting argument if you want to bet on Nolan. The possibility that he could, we know Borshchev isn't taking him down, right? Like we know that about Slavoclaws at this point. So.
Plus 750 for a Tom Nolan submission. He has won in his amateur career.
We know Chase Hooper unfortunately ended up getting a submission against Borshchev instead of a knockout. Right? I don't want to make you relive that. But I knew we'd be split. This is a great fight. It's great matchmaking to me. It's kind of like young versus old, but I love fading CLV and Tom Nolan was like plus 150 a week ago, and now he's plus 100. And I feel like CLV always gets your pants down. I think I'm gonna buy low on Borshchev here.
Yeah. It's tough. It really is.
I knew we were gonna have a hard time coming to consensus for a cycle leg. I wouldn't even feel comfortable with either of these guys in the cycle either, because I think points KO is live for both of them. So interesting bout. Let me take a look. Where's our Santos slide? I could have sworn. Here, we'll have them pull it up. We're missing Gabriel Santos,
Jack Jenkins.
Jack Jenkins, which is the featured prelim that we want to talk about here. Matty, as they pull that up so the guys can see kind of the tail of the tape. There we go. Thank you, Mike. Tail of the tape here between Jack Jenkins and Gabriel Santos. This got bumped to the featured prelim. I think it's because it's an absolute banger. Jenkins is the guy. You remember Dana White called him a one-trick pony after the Contender Series and said, maybe a different night I won't end up taking him. But he ends up taking him, and Jack's actually won quite a few fights. He broke his arm against Chepe, but it's looked good. And then Gabriel Santos, super talented guy, nearly beat Lerone Murphy in his debut, did get his first UFC win last time out against Yi Jia. So, Matty, I see a lot of good arguments on both sides of this fight. Santos is minus 245 right now. What do you think in this guy?
I like Santos, but, man, that feels a little bit expensive. I mean, I think you would have liked to see Jenkins put away Herbert Burns a little bit earlier in his last fight.
Sure.
He kind of, it took, to round 3 to get him out of there. But he has some okay wins. I just think Gabriel Santos is fighting the higher opposition. David Onama is a hard fight. Lerone Murphy is as skilled as it gets. But the guy still has no finishes in the UFC.
Mm-hmm.
So it's tough. I was looking at Santos by either submission or decision here.
Okay.
Let me take a look here. I know I had – what is that number? So Santos by points is plus 135, submissions plus 440, and then his KO is 6-1. But I think those are his two outcomes: is decision or submission.
Interesting. So you like Santos as a favorite. I like a dog shot here. I just have a gut feeling about Jack Jenkins, bro. Yeah, he's been very kind to me. I bet him in every fight except I did bet him in the Chepe Mariscal fight. That's the one he didn't cash, and that's because, are you checking on Saquon right now?
I don't know what's going on, bro.
Oh, okay. But like
Jaden Daniels, Brad. Dude, you know what's crazy is I can barely see the TV, and I thought it was Jamar Chase.
Oh my god, that would be
which would have been insane if Jamar Chase was Offensive Player of the Year.
Yeah,
I was like shitting myself, dude.
You looked like you saw a ghost, Matty. That's why
I know. I thought they called Jamar Chase, but I can't see right now.
We'll see. Let me check X when I show you.
Yeah.
After.
Can you fix the shit, bro? Who is that? All right, scare the shit out of me, dude. Oh my god, I thought they just called Jamar Chase up there, bro.
Anyway, I like Jack Jenkins here. I look at his. I will say, you are a guy that is very close to Gilbert Burns. I think Herbert Burns in the first round of any fight is still a very tough, powerful, dangerous guy. I think he's a dangerous guy to be in there with, even
That's
though
true.
Herbert's UFC career didn't go very well. Yeah, he didn't get him out of there particularly early. It doesn't help that Jenkins is not a guy that's really shown any sort of submission upside. I see some love for Santos sub in the chat, and I get it because it is a little bit of a red flag. But at the end of the day, I think Jenkins is a guy that's tough as a $2 stake, super efficient. Like, he is 80th percentile or better in striking accuracy, striking defense, takedown accuracy, takedown defense in this division at 145. I kind of just tend to buy that guy, especially when he's plus 190. I'm glad it's inching a little bit toward him. But Santos is a guy that has found a way to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. He ended up making a mistake in that third round against Murphy. Otherwise, he probably gets the decision. Was winning that Onama fight until he got knocked out of nowhere. I think Jenkins is the more powerful dude here. I don't love Santos's gym. He's training with Joaquin Silva, Bruno Silva, those guys at Evolution Tau MMA. I don't love that gym per se versus if he was coming from like a shooter box or a place like that. So I kind of lean Jack Farr in the featured prelim in Sydney. Feels like a banger type of spot, but maybe I'm taking the cheese.
I'll tell you what you could sell me on is Jenkins by points at plus 370.
Interesting.
I think that's a solid number, bro.
I don't know. It's just hard to envision how Jenkins does win because Santos's takedown defense has been perfect thus far, 85%, almost perfect, I should say. Where he struggled is defense on the fade. I think Jenkins is going to try to strike in this fight, and I almost kind of lean like a 2-3 KO type of thing.
That would pay nicely.
Yeah, maybe I play Jenkins starts round 2, even though I've kind of had some bad luck with injuries trying to
I
do
mean,
that
dude,
late.
Jenkins round 2 KOs 21-1 and
Yeah.
29-1 round 3. That's insane.
I love betting his KO props because he hasn't shown any sort of submission danger whatsoever, and Santos is black belt, so I don't think he's going to submit him. If anything, it'll be the other way around.
Right.
So I wasn't sure we'd be split there, and I Jenkins is not really a type of dog that we'd be thinking Salkilld, but I think I really do like Jack to win that fight. So why don't we kind of cruise through prelims? There's not a lot of data on some of these, not a lot of conviction, but hopefully we'll be able to find stuff on the main card. But before we move on to the main card, guys, just wanted to let everybody know our guy Hayden, Home Fight Picks, he landed another winning week above 5 units in profit at UFC Saudi Arabia. He especially is crushing the daily fantasy setting as well. Since 2023, the Home Fight Picks guys are up over 210 total units. That means if you bet $100 on every unit that they place, you're up over $21,000. The best time to join is now. Use the link in the bio and code CYCLE. That'll give you 7 days free from today. That'll give you all of UFC 312 picks for free. Again, it is the link that is in the bio. We also have it pinned in the comments section, or visit at the HOF Picks on X for more information. So good guys there. I respect Hayden and Nolan, the guys that do the Home Fight Picks stuff. As a data guy, I respect their film analysis to the top shelf. And Matty doesn't pay me to do this, but I am happy to recommend those two as being incredibly smart, savvy guys when it comes to MMA. So why don't we move on to the main card, Matty, here. Jake Matthews taking on Francisco Prado. Interestingly, this is the 170 debut for Francisco Prado, coming off a loss to Daniel Zellhuber. Jake Matthews is a favorite. What could possibly go wrong? He's actually under 500 in his UFC career in this position. So I understand if you don't trust the Celtic kid. Matty, what do you think about this fight? Because I've already bet it. I regretfully have done so, but it is what it is. I certainly wonder if you're leaning toward a dog shot in this spot.
You took Jake early?
I just took Jake's money line, on Monday.
And what'd you get it at?
Oh, like minus 205, minus 210, somewhere around there. So a little bit of value, but you like Prado?
I like his fight against Daniel Zellhuber. I don't like his fight against Jamie Mullarkey.
That's why I bet Jake here, dude, is because I look at Prado. He's got a 25% takedown defense, and now he's moving up in weight against a guy who's a really good wrestler, right? And we saw him do that to Phil Rowe in his last fight. And I think there is a chance that Jake Matthews fights this like a total idiot and stays at distance and gets himself knocked out or chin. How many times did Matthew Semmelsberger drop Jake Matthews? It was like 3 or 4 times, right? It was just infuriating that he didn't try to wrestle Semi at all in that fight. It was 3 times officially. But like, I think if Jake takes the right game plan, 41% takedown accuracy, he's good at getting takedowns. This is a guy moving up in weight. I think he can wet blanket him, win a decision. Don't think a sub would be crazy. But God willing, as I played his money line, thinking it was good value, I just hope he takes the right game plan here. So it's interesting that Prado's kind of the hot dog pick of the week, but I don't think moving up is a good move for him.
Yeah. Jake Matthews by sub is plus 600.
Whoa.
I mean, that's just Prado's never been subbed. Prado's never been subbed.
He's 22. He can barely drink.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. But he's had 14 fights. I mean,
yeah.
But yeah, no, I was originally leaning Jake Matthews by decision and maybe even considering it in the cycle way.
I love Matthews' points here just because Prado's defensive grappling, he was able to stay safe, not get submitted by Mullarkey. I feel good about it, and I would lean decision heavily here. It's plus 115. So interesting number there. I think that comes to, I was like, wow, sub's kind of long at 6-1, but I think it's more so like points should be about plus 175. I'd put sub closer to like plus 500, but the difference there is kind of marginal.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting the minus 250 favorite against a guy who's never been finished at plus money for the cycle. So I think we should consider it as a top 2-3 option for the decision leg.
We just don't have a lot of decisions on this card so far. Like you kind of like Jousset, but it's a weirdly sort of violent leaning card, and I tend to see that in lower level MMA is that you see more finishes.
Yeah. I mean, look this fight. I mean, look what Jake Matthews did back in 2018. I mean, it's a long time ago, but against the Leech, you know,
So good.
explosive striker on the feet, unanimous decision. And then all of his recent wins are pretty much decisions except Fiallo, who has been chinned by everybody.
Yep.
You know, so like Diego Sanchez decision, Meek, Ackman, like he's getting all these decision wins. It's just, to me, it comes down to the submission danger. I think that's the sweat in this fight.
Yeah.
But we got to trust that Prado is good enough to not get sub, which he hasn't been so far. So I'm leaning Jake Matthews by decision here as a cycle leg, but let's talk through the rest of this card before we decide.
Kind of crazy. He's 6-3 since like the start of 2020. Like Matthews is low-key been on a run here, and he's been around forever because he joined the UFC around 18 or whatever it was. He's kind of hit his prime now, at least analytical prime. It's like I feel like Prado's the guy here that's a little bit too young. Interesting to me. He's moving up in weight, and Matthews is a black belt. I feel good about his ability on the ground. He controlled Phil Rowe there, and Rowe's a guy that's actually had wrestling and grappling success against others. I think Matthews points at plus 115 is a really nice look for the cycle. And he's kind of a known quantity on a card without them, which helps too.
I just hate that loss to Semmelsberger. You know, it's just so sick.
It was, I pulled my hair out because I'm like, if you just got this guy to the ground, we saw Semi have takedown defense issues against everybody. And then he got,
I'm going to be honest, bro. I have a weird feeling about this fight. I don't know if I can put this in the cycle. We gotta keep going here.
Well, dude, favor Jake Matthews is a terrible place to be historically. So I get it. I totally get it. But why don't
I can just see him doing something stupid and screwing us.
It's almost kind of his reputation at this point, so I totally understand. But from one guy who can do something stupid and screw us, how about we get to another here with our guy Jimmy the Brute Crute? He's back off of that mini layoff, retirement, whatever he wants to call it here. Crute taking on Rodolfo Bellato at this 205-pound belt. Matty, Jimmy is a guy that you went really hard at in his first fight against Alonzo Metafield. You really love Jimmy Crute in that particular bout. Now he's been off for a while. He comes back, and he's taking on a guy in Bellato who also ended up screwing you in the last fight against Ihor Potieria. Should have had the KO. Probably a different ref stops the fight. Instead, he comes back.
Bro, I had round 2. It was like 20-something to 1.
Yeah.
And the ref's seconds away from stopping it, and then Potieria gasses, and then Bellato rallies and TKOs him.
Well, so this is the like Matty Bad Beat Bowl here. Who you got? I'm stunned by these odds. To me, this is.
I'll tell you who I got. I got the fucking under. I got the mortgage on this fight not going the distance. And if it goes the distance, I retire, bro. Because this fight is not going the fucking distance. I don't care what anyone says. Elite submission abilities on both sides. Elite power on the feet by both sides. Question marks on layoffs and cardio and everything on both sides.
Yeah,
I just don't see how this fight goes the distance. I don't know that it gets out of round 1. I like the under 1.5. I like the fight to not go. I think you get under 1.5 at plus money, and I have the fight not go the distance. But of course, some bullshit will happen, and both guys will be gassed, and they'll be doing nothing, and then it'll somehow go 15 minutes. So that's MMA. But I don't see how this fight goes the distance. I don't see how it gets out of round 1. I think that Jimmy and Eileen, honestly. I like Jimmy Crute on a normal day, but like I'm scared for him here. Just a lot of pressure here. Off the layoff. A lot of pressure just in general in this fight. He's fighting a big guy, but he's fought clearly the much better competition lifetime.
Absolutely.
It's not even comparable. But I just feel like someone's getting chinned in this fight.
Yeah, I think that's more than fair, especially since we've seen Crute struggle with durability issues. But like, I will say this 0-3-1 skid that Jimmy Crute is on. People realize that all of his opponents were ranked at the time of the fight, right? Alonzo Metafield, Jamal Hill, and Anthony Smith. Which, by the way, he was arguably winning the Smith fight until his leg gave out at the end of round 1, and it was more of an injury sort of circumstance. I have a theory here, Matty, that's kind of a continuation on what your Potieria bet was. I think Bellato sucks.
Holy shit. Offensive player of the year is coming up right now. But keep going.
Okay. I'll quickly get this in so we can sweat that. I think Bellato sucks, dude. I really think that I'm very concerned for him, like in general, as far as a UFC prospect is concerned. Almost 6 significant strikes absorbed per minute.
Yeah.
The fight against Topuria was a really tough look. I think putting him against a grappler is probably a safer spot. But to me, if your plan is to out grapple Jimmy Crute at 205, I love Jimmy Crute in this spot, dude. I think that he has been thrown to pasture because he's lost to a bunch of good guys, some of them particularly well-rounded. Bellato to me is one of my least favorite favorites of the week.
I'll tell you one thing. I'm not opposed to a Jimmy Crute by KO here.
Interesting, dude. I love Crute's sub. Yeah.
Oh, wow. I mean, Bellato hasn't fought anybody. He fought Petrino and got put away. And then since then, who has he fought?
Yes.
All right, here it is, bro. Hold on. I need a moment of silence from everyone in the chat right now.
Oh, yes! Yeah. Wow, there it is.
Saquon Barkley, that's 30,000.
30,000.
Let's go, Saquon.
Wow, Matty. What a ticket to cash electric on air.
A degenerate gambler bet $1,000 to win $30,000 in September, believing Saquon Barkley would win the AP Offensive Player of the Year award. That man was MattyBetts.
Saquon Barkley, Offensive Player of the Year.
What a win.
30,000. I'm going to Circa. We're going to Circa next week to collect.
Going to Circa next week. You got to get there before Saturday and place your cycle parlay, bro.
No. I should just hop on a plane fucking tomorrow. Let's go. Dude, for some reason, I was still sweating it. Like, there was no reason to sweat it, but you just wait to get screwed, You just feel like it's always going to happen.
Matty, congrats, bro. That's a huge hit, and the vibes could not be higher for the show. That's actually insane, dude. I would have never have thought that the Eagles' talented offense would have slanted so much Saquon's way, but he's been outstanding. He probably would have broken the NFL rushing record if he got to play the last week. So it's just,
dude, I would have
unbelievable year. So congrats, Matty.
I'll tell you guys the story. When I was at Circa, my degenerate ass DM'd the Circa Sportsbook manager and said, Jeffrey Benson, I DM'd him. I said, bro, I want to take one of your NFL futures. It's 30-1. What's the max exposure you guys will take? He's like, well, how much do you want? I was like, I want 10,000 to win 300,000, right? That's what I told him. He's like, we'll give you 3 to win 90. So then I go to the book last day of Vegas, and I got my head slapped playing blackjack. So I had $1,000 cash right before I was getting on a plane to go back to Florida. I put the 1,000 on Saquon at 30-1. I was gonna put 3 to win 90, bro. But a win's a win. It's just sick that blackjack stole $60K from me on that.
That's an unbelievable story that you were able to throw up. And man, those futures, I want to know what you got from a prognosis there. And by the way, your Notre Dame future ended up being super positive EV as well. And the Eagles one too, that they made the Super Bowl at some point.
Dude, I wish Notre Dame pulled it off.
Yeah.
They just got off to such a bad start in that game, bro.
They did. And they had so many injuries throughout the playoff that really hurt their ability to compete. But man, what a ticket that still was, even though it didn't cash. But Matty, I will be listening to you for NFL prognosis. But if I could ask you, if we throw this back to UFC, people listening on Saturday after the award show are like, what is going on here? But what is Crute by KO, and do you like it just because you feel like the grappling cancels out in this fight?
Yeah, no, I do, and I could see ground and pound. We saw Teixeira deliver massive ground and pound, and he's not even that good of a ground and pound guy. Like, I think Crute could find his chin on the feet or on the ground in top position. So, I like the TKO more so than the sub, but I'm not opposed to going inside the distance here because he's already a dog, right? What's he?
How is Crute sub 12-1 here?
That I got to sprinkle on. Yeah, that
the dude. Okay, so Jimmy Crute leads all active light heavyweights with at least 5 fights, 2 submission attempts per 15 minutes. There's nobody that tries submissions more often than Jimmy Crute. And he's 12-1 to win by sub against anybody. It's crazy. He did get Peruvian necktied back in the day by Serkinov, but that is why. This is a guy that subbed Paul Craig in the 3rd round. Like, we remember that, right? So do you think that Bellato is a better ground player than Craig? Because there's just no way. I can't believe that's 12.
Of course not. No, of course not. Yeah.
Dang. I wonder what inside the distance is with Crute, because his money line is currently plus 132. What is inside the distance with him? It's plus 390. Crute is plus 390 inside the distance, dude.
Dude,
what?
That's insane. I'm taking that.
I am so glad that I did not bet his money line, because why are those two so different?
Yeah,
that's weird, dude. That's just weird. That's so weird.
That's crazy, bro. It really is.
I'll probably layer all 3, but Crute. Hey, we got a good. Now those are the trends we want to see. We got a good comment in chat, Matty. Jimmy Crute undefeated in Australia. Just saying. Crute's one of my favorite. Yeah, Crute's one of my favorite dogs this week. I think it's a y'all must have forgot moment about Jimmy the Brute. But why don't we move on here? We'll get this in the not only so we can build some parlays, but so Matty can celebrate Saquon as the offensive player of the year. We had a 30K hit live on the show today. But how about this third to last fight, Matty? The people's main event. Taliesin Teixeira taking on Justin Tafa. I regret to inform you I bet this fight today, but Matty, what do you think about this heavyweight fight? It's clearly a big spot for both of these guys. Is like the third to last fight on a pay-per-view to like make a name for themselves. I can't believe this money line as it sits. I was just kind of waiting for the best number here. What do you think about versus Teixeira in this matchup?
How tall is Teixeira, bro?
He's listed 6'7". I think he's taller than that.
How tall is Tafa?
6 foot tall.
Yeah. What did Joe Burrow just win?
Probably come back, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Here's what I'll say, bro. Call me crazy, but I think Justin Tafa kind of thrives against a taller guy with his chin up in the air. Like, I feel like those hooks can find Teixeira's chin, bro. I think he's gonna knock him out.
I think that is not a horrible line of thinking, but it is also his only way to win. I've been on this a bit with Justin Tafa. And by the way, his brother broke the trend both of them had going. If the fight goes at least 2 minutes, Justin Tafa has never won it in UFC. It is that simple. So what is Tafa round 1 KO here? It is, let's see. It is plus 350. And I've said this before with Tai Tuivasa. I've said it before with Tafa. It's like Tafa round 1 KO is his path, and it's also plus 350 in this fight. That's why I love Taliesin Teixeira's money line. I think they put this here because this dude is special. He's so long. He's so tall. He's so great. I do. I think this is about building him up, even though Tafa is the Australian guy here.
Yeah.
The effective reach difference in this fight is going to be crazy because they're 9 inches apart in reach, and that is even more when you factor in how far apart their heads are. It is going to be a weird, goofy-looking fight, but like how many times have we seen these tall heavyweights? I think of like Stefan Struve. They were just magnets for like big overhand rights right to the chin, right?
Yeah.
So like I understand where you're coming from. Do you think you're going to end up sprinkling on Tafa round 1 KO plus 350?
I would maybe consider a 1-2 sprinkle, but what's the number first of all? It's probably not even that great.
For what?
For Tafa KO.
Oh, just KO in general? It is
plus 170. It's not even exciting to me.
Why is KO plus 170 and round 1 is plus 350 when he's literally never won a fight that went at least 2 minutes?
Yeah.
You might as well just bet. I mean, I'm going to hedge probably out of my Teixeira money line with plus 350.
First of all, who's the better Tafa brother in your opinion?
Oh, God.
Because there's always been a debate, but like it kind of flip-flopped a couple times, I feel like.
I think it's Junior. I think Junior's probably the better. I mean, Justin, I I don't know, man. I
I'll
feel
tell you
like
what, Justin Tafa put away Austin Lane in round 1. Lane went further against the knees.
Yeah.
And beat Rebellis to Spain, but obviously, that played out how it played out. I'm just saying, Tafa's not a guy to sleep on, bro. Like, if you're not going to take him down, he's just not a guy to sleep on. If he comes forward, he can catch your chin.
Yeah.
I agree. I don't know. My gut tells me round 1 KO plus 350.
I'm going to show my UNC status here. I remember his UFC debut. I want to say it was a main card of like a fight night card against Jorgen De Castro, and Bud got put out cold. It was like a debut fight for both of those dudes, and De Castro is this journeyman. He was with PFL for a little, and he hasn't done anything since he left UFC. But like, I still remember him getting KO'd cold in that fight. I just feel like Teixeira is just a very special prospect. Like, he's a guy they built up really highly on the Contender Series.
Yeah.
We've seen faint hints and whiffs of grappling stuff, but I don't think he's going to be shooting takedowns here. This fight could end up being actually sneaky bad. It's why I bet Teixeira's money line. I don't think Teixeira points at plus 950 is a horrible angle here, just because Tafa has been so durable against some of the other guys, like you said, that might have been willing to take him down. Jared Vandera wasn't able to get him out of there, and he went the distance with Carlos Felipe as well. So he's not an easy guy to put away if you're thinking like Teixeira KO1. The longer this fight goes, obviously, it favors Teixeira, but dang, man, I mean, plus 350 is a good enough number. I'm going to even hedge out of his money line with that Tafa number.
100%. Fair enough.
Yeah, we got someone going to bat in the comments for Justin Tafa. Miles better than Junior. If you believe that, go for it. I think they're roughly the same version of the same dude in a different font. So if you feel strongly about that, I'll give it to you. But Matty, why don't we move on to hand out some belts? Women's strawweight in the co-main event. Zhang Weili taking on Tatiana Suarez. A little bit of line movement all week in this one. Suarez right this second sits minus 118 on FanDuel with Zhang Weili about minus 108. Wherever you look, it's almost about a pick-em in this fight. Either way, odds makers thinks this will be Weili Zhang's toughest defense since the Rose Namajunas fights. So what do you think about this one in this matchup?
It's crazy. All the steam's coming in on Tatiana. She's so much better at wrestling, like so much better.
Sure.
It's not even comparable. I have a feeling you're on Weili here. I can't fade my boy Patchy Mix and his girl Tatiana. I just think they're so high level. They're so well trained. They have such good pedigree. With that said, Weili could catch her on the feet. There's no doubt about it. But it's like, is she going to be able to starch her? Because even if she hurts her, I think Tatiana can recover and get takedowns. So unless you starch her, I just think this is Tatiana's fight. And I think that's why we've seen the odds move. She's pretty much a favorite everywhere now, or for the most books, she's the favorite now.
Yeah.
I think you play Tatiana by submission / decision double chance here. And get some plus money, keep the plus money on her. I think that's her path. I could kind of see her. I mean, she might end up setting a freaking record for if she can't hold Weili down, she's gonna end up setting a record for takedowns. I feel like because Weili's takedown defense isn't great.
Yeah.
Tatiana's gonna be the bigger, stronger chick here. She might be able to spam takedowns and get her down and keep getting her down. And whether she can sub her or not, I think that's kind of be determined.
Yeah.
She subbed Andrade, who didn't even have a neck, so that was kind of impressive. Has Tatiana ever been like hurt to your knowledge?
No, I mean she's looked pretty much superhuman, and
she's got great striking defense on the feet. We've never really seen her been shinned or hurt. She's 10-0. Her wrestling pedigree is incredible. She's coming off 2 straight guillotine wins.
Yeah.
I don't really see her getting a guillotine here, but the question is, can she get a rear naked choke, or can she get something on the ground like a Darce or something? She's nasty on the ground, bro. I gotta believe that in a 5-rounder she can find the sub, dude. I'm leaning towards the sub, honestly, but a decision wouldn't surprise me at the same time. But again, I don't say that lightly because I'm a big Weili Zhang guy, or Zhang Weili, whichever way it is now. I'm a big Weili guy. I think she's a monster. I love those videos of her picking up Francis Ngannou on her back.
I saw that.
And she's just a fun female fighter. She's what the sport needs out of women's MMA. So Hard answer is I'm Tatiana, double chance here, submission decision. I would probably sprinkle on maybe some on a maybe like a 2-3. I mean, if she subs her, do you think it would be on the early or late side?
Probably early.
Yeah.
Just because that means her submission defense wasn't up to the test.
Yeah. I consider Tatiana by sub in the cycle, but it is scary. But I think she's that good, bro. So
yeah.
the floor is yours.
I mean, it's a great fight. It's a great argument, and I don't have a strong verdict when my model is basically dead on with odds makers here. I've got Zhang a slight 50.4% favorite. So, I mean, you're nibbling at value even at like plus 100, which you see are out there at a couple of books. It's not slam dunk. I feel strongly about this. What is Suarez sub the smallest outcome in the fight right now? Like, is that the most likely?
I think it's decision.
Okay. So it's Weili points at plus 290, which I agree with. I've got that the most likely outcome.
Wow.
And then Weili take TKO. I don't agree there. Tatiana sub 3-1, and then Tatiana points is plus 370.
Wow. Yeah, that's actually to me, based off the numbers, it kind of makes me lean Tatiana decision the most.
Yeah, it's plus 370.
It's very close. I mean, Weili's never been submitted, but then again, who is she fighting? She's fought Rose, who head kicked her, and who has good jiu-jitsu in the rematch. It was a split decision.
Yeah.
But Rose doesn't have anywhere near the wrestling to get it there that Tatiana has. You know, she's slick on the ground, but she's not a wrestler the way that Suarez is. Andrade, you know, Weili just put her away early.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, who is she really fighting that even has wrestling?
Yeah, it's a great point.
She fought Carlos Esparza.
Yeah, she got taken down and gave up top position a couple of times in the second Rose Namajunas fight.
And she ended up submitting her.
Yeah.
You know what is crazy? That would be a crazy long shot if you take Weili by sub here.
It's 17-1. I've actually got it probably showing value at 8.2%.
It has to have value, bro. It's actually an interesting long shot, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's like deja vu in the Carlos Esparza fight, you know? Weili's the better striker. It's like avoid the grappling. And then she goes out and subs Carla.
Yeah.
You know, I think Tatiana would have to be hurt or tired for that to happen, though.
Yeah, I will say that anecdotally here, there are things working against Suarez that I think would be more forgivable as an underdog, but as a slight favorite, you're kind of worried that this is the first time she's going to go 5 rounds. As somebody who wrestles, you can get tired really easily in that setting, especially if Weili shows a little bit of resistance. We got a great question. What is Weili's takedown defense, which could very well decide this fight? It's just 50%, which analytically is not very good. But let me count up the attempts here really quick. 4, 6. Yeah, she's only faced 12 attempts in her career. So Weili's takedown defense is pretty unproven and untested at this point.
It's not good. That's what I'm saying is the numbers aren't good, and the wrestling opposition isn't good either. Like, that's why I said, like, what do you think Tatiana's takedown line is in a DFS world? It's got to be high.
Well, I can answer that. I can visit Shady Sportsbook and take a look. But I will just say that I think probably Weili has been training takedowns and drilling them nonstop, which we saw that with Poirier against Islam Makhachev. If that's really a central focus of a camp, you can kind of correct some of those woes, especially if the other person is one-dimensional. But the other thing is that if there are pronounced moments at distance in this fight, we kind of think Weili's going to win them handily, right? And judging his favorite striking over wrestling, somehow Sean O'Malley's still arguing he won the Merab fight on the basis of damage versus control, and that's been my worry for Tatiana this whole time throughout like this run is like, does she get robbed by the judges at some point if she's not adding ground and pound or adding damage at some point? So I'm not going to like pound the table for Weili in this spot. But I do think that it might be a little disrespectful that she's not the tiniest favorite as the champion that's been there, gone 5 rounds. It's like, I don't have a strong lean on this fight. First, I think it's the best fight on the card, like from a style perspective. I think this is a great fight.
I agree. It really is it's a great matchup stylistically for sure. Yeah. I mean, DDP Strickland, we already know what we're getting.
Yeah. This
is a great style. I mean, maybe Weili comes out and like, this is all she's trained the past 6 months. Like, so this is actually an interesting thing to discuss is I believe I saw a clip of Suarez talking about like, MMA fighters training with other MMA fighters, sparring. She said that she could tell right away that Weili would not allow that over the last year or so because Weili knew. She said Weili knew this fight was eventually coming, and she said she didn't want to give up anything. As far as training together or sparring or whatever, you got to think that Weili's been kind of preparing for this fight too. So that part does scare me a little bit. Whereas like all the other competition, I mean, she's never lost to anyone except Rose in the UFC.
Yeah,
she's dominating pretty much everyone too.
And I thought the Rose decision was incredibly skeptical. I gave Weili 3 rounds to 2 in that on my personal card. So
yeah,
I mean,
even the decisions Weili has won have been dominant. Like
yes,
the Amanda Lemos decision. What was that scorecard? It had to have been a beatdown.
I'm going to check it.
I can't believe Lemos. I had Weili late finishes in that fight, and I was furious.
It was 50-43 on one card, and then some of the other judges kept it a little closer. But 50-43,
yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah, dude. I think it's like you said, it's a great fight. By the way, just for a total on this one, I've got it 56.2% likely to go the full distance. So that is, I'm showing value on plus money to go the distance, which I like both ways. Weili obviously hasn't been subbed in UFC, as you said, and then I think Tatiana, as you mentioned, very durable in the striking defense realm as well. So I kind of lean distance here. I'll probably add that to my card since I don't have such a strong lean on the outcome.
Yeah.
Okay.
100%, bro.
All righty, Matty. Let's do it. Let's move on to the main event. And it's a rerun. Sean Strickland taking on Dricus du Plessis. We kind of thought they would run this back at some point because it was such a close fight the first time, a split decision that Sean still thinks he won. He definitely had an argument to have potentially won it, which makes it very curious that Dricus du Plessis in the rematch here minus 215 after he submitted Israel Adesanya. Sean Strickland got a decision win over Paulo Costa since they last fought. So now about 13 months later, we're going to run it back, Matty. What do you think about these betting odds in this fight from a betting perspective?
It feels wide. I feel like every single person is picking DDP. And honestly, I've won a lot of money betting on DDP, and I've lost a lot of money betting against him.
Interesting.
Every time I bet against him, I took Whitaker against him like an idiot. I took what was the other one? I think it might have just been Whitaker that I lost big again. It was like the last leg of a big parlay. But I started to see the light at least sooner than later with DDP, and I was able to make a lot of money on him. I did a round 3, 4, 5 submission against Adesanya. I hit the round 4 at like 25-1 or some shit, so I hit big on that one. I had him inside the distance. What was the other fight I did well on? Not the Strickland first fight, so the 2 fights I've lost betting against DDP has been Whitaker and Strickland.
Were we doing a show when these guys last fought?
Say it again.
Were we doing a show when these guys last fought? Because I was all over du Plessis in that first time Strickland and du Plessis fought.
I honestly don't remember. Let me see. I'm trying to think the other big win I had on him. Darren Till, yeah. Even the Derek Brunson fight was even weird because du Plessis got hurt pretty early in that fight in the first round.
Yes.
But then Brunson's gas tank kind of just gave out. But yeah, this is a very tough fight. I do think the odds are a little bit wide. But if anything, that's kind of telling, right? Like, I don't think these books want that action on du Plessis as a small favorite. They were like, we're going to make him a 2-1 here.
Yeah.
What is he at right now?
He is at, it's right about this thing. He's minus 215. So he's sitting minus 215 right now.
I mean, that's a very big number for how razor close that first fight is. And I think that's just very telling, that the number is now this much bigger. It's like, why is that? When you really peel back the curtain, you're like, it doesn't really make sense. But then you're like, maybe du Plessis just has more ways to win.
Yeah.
He's got wrestling, got grappling. Can he win by submission? He has more knockout power. Whereas Sean, it's just like, if Sean's going to win this fight, he's just going to, come forward, piece him up, and win a decision. What the hell is this?
This is we did have a show for this fight. I was like, it had to have been very shortly after we started it here. The old show. Do we have a clip there or what? Because I was very big on Du Plessis in the first fight. I had him at 66 something % likely to win, and people thought I was crazy making him that big of a favorite. And honestly, it didn't play out that way. It was a much closer fight than I was expecting. But like, I just generally go to the DDP well, man. I've backed him in every single fight thus far. You look at his sparkling efficiency metrics. The Adesanya win obviously doesn't age as well as it did before last week, right? If Izzy had gone out and beat up Imavov and been able to throw him back, it would have been a better story. But I still think that Du Plessis' physicality is on a different plane here. The biggest thing about Strickland is that, yes, at plus 164, you get a guy who fought him really close, but that was also the only way it can look for Sean Strickland to win. Like, he is a guy that is going to have to outpoint you over 25 minutes, whereas Du Plessis is a guy that is a finisher. We've seen Sean Strickland hurt by Poatan, right? There was a clean left hook that put him out in the first round. Strickland is a former 170er. Now, I will say, have you seen Sean this week? He looks much bigger, interestingly enough. And
he looks to be in great shape. I was looking at some of his pad work, and he looks sharp, bro.
Yeah.
There's no question he's the sharper, more technical fighter with better cardio. It's just like when the big shots land from each guy, it's like which guy does more damage, and it's DDP every time.
Yeah.
And I do think he's going to get takedowns more in this fight. Like, I think DDP is going to actively try to, because if he can get takedowns early and land some ground and pound, you can kind of slow Sean down versus DDP knows what that pressure feels like. If he's like, oh, this is going to suck for 5 rounds again, but like if he can, change it up a little bit early, I think, and maybe that's what odds makers are seeing, or maybe that's why this number is so much wider.
Yeah.
It's a tough, I think it is wide though.
The angles that I love here in this fight, model approved. I've got let's see. I've got inside the distance at plus 115 for Dreykus. So I would play that at, let's see what it is. Gosh, there's so many markets on FanDuel. It's plus 190, so I like that number. And then I do lean knockout of the two of them. I've got it at plus 280 and it's plus 320. So I think knockout is probably a better bet than submission. I really wouldn't want to leave either behind, but Strickland's been historically a really hard guy to take down, even harder to submit. So I like Du Plessis inside the distance without getting ugly about it. But I was wondering if you were going to maybe want to throw a cycle leg in here. But Dreykus is so well-rounded. He's kind of a tough cycle guy because he can win by knockout. He can win by sub. And then we saw Strickland make it to the end of the fight.
And Sean's never been subbed either.
Yeah.
Which makes it interesting. I do think if you're going to play Du Plessis, you might have to look towards the KO here.
I like Du Plessis KO. It's my model's favorite angle.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen Sean Starks before, it was Poatan.
Yeah.
But, it's just like, can Du Plessis really do that though? Like Poatan's just, he set up the shot, he goes to the body and he finds the chin with the left hook. And it's like, Sean didn't even see it coming. Whereas like DDPs will just start big bombs that you see coming. And it's like, is that really enough to put Strickland away?
Yeah.
So it's just tough.
I wonder what the adjustment will be. I think Du Plessis' body work is pivotal here because Sean has such a high guard that when you get a guy like this for a second time, I noticed when you watch Strickland fight that he is probably weakest to the body because he keeps his hands so high. Does Du Plessis adjust there? Kamaru Usman said that was his main point of attack in a fight where he hurt Sean Strickland. Now, that was at 170 before Sean kind of became this sort of title caliber guy. But I do think it's an interesting note for a guy in Du Plessis who's shown some tendency to work the body.
Yeah, fair enough. So
All right.
What's your final pick? You going Du Plessis KO?
Let me check the sub real quick. So I've got.
I mean, are you willing to lay Du Plessis? Like, for example, what was the minus 240 play you liked earlier in the night?
It was Cody Steele money line, right?
Yeah, like would you put Du Plessis Steele as a safe
no, because I think Du Plessis decision is overvalued here because I've only got him minus 190 on the money line. So that's the difference is that I think I find value in his finishing prop, but I do think now because the last fight ended in decision that part is a little bit overrated for Du Plessis. I actually have modeled this and I agree with it anecdotally. I have Strickland about 9 percentage points more likely to win by decision, which I agree with. And that Strickland will put numbers out there, and we saw how close the first decision was. Du Plessis was kind of fortunate to win that first decision. The difference is I think Dricus has a very good substantial chance, maybe not over 50%, but a good chance to finish the fight. And by the way, just model showing value on both. I've got KO plus 280. I've got sub plus 400 for Du Plessis. So I'm good with either sort of bet. I'm not going to split hairs. I'll probably just throw a couple units on inside the distance and call it a day, but the choice is yours.
Yeah, I hear that. Guys, if you missed the show, the whole thing is on my YouTube, MattyBetss YouTube. You got to click on the live tab. People keep DMing me and asking where the show's at.
Yeah.
It's sometimes YouTube's weird. It's hard to find it. So when you go to the MattyBetss YouTube channel, click on the live button. You can see every one of our shows under that. Either under live or podcast or both. But go check that out. You guys can rewind and check everything out.
Yeah, and this will also show up in videos right as soon as we wrap up as well. It'll go straight there. So you'll be able to see it there too, because you'll want to check out some of the early prints because we might feature some here in our parlays. So why don't we build some parlays, Matty?
Let's run it, bro. Let's start with this.
I was waiting for the cutscene. All right. Let's start with the safe parlay. Darn you, Sergey Pavlovich, bro. Whenever Sergey moved forward in that fight, he hurt Jairzinho, but he was just Tom Aspinall has broken that man. He does not look like the same sort of guy whatsoever anymore. He just timid, and he ruined Sergey Pavlovich, Aspinall did. But we'll try to get back on track here. So we talked earlier in the show. Cody Steele money line minus 245. I
think he's the best favorite for the price on the entire card.
I agree. I agree with that. When probably, Matthews is getting a little uncomfortable. He's up at minus 250. That's scary as heck. And then Wang Cong and Salkilld above that. So I like Cody Steele money line a lot. We talked about that as well. Another one I had written down that you and I both were in on. Crute Bellato to not go the distance minus 240. I agree.
Minus 240 is all it is.
That's all it is.
Oh my God, bro. Hammer that.
It's a little scary because Crute's most likely path to win is also by points. And I'm thinking to myself, am I missing something? Because hey, I feel like both of these guys are finishers.
He's not that much of he's not really a control guy, grappler. He threatens with submissions and ground and pound.
Yeah. I feel like Crute sub 12-1 is just absolutely insane there. So I'm going to go with that. So those two together, Matty, are minus 101. If we just want to pack it up, call it a day at even money.
I'm in. I like it.
Yeah. I can't think of anything.
Did you hit last week?
No, Pavlovich ruined it.
That would have been what? That would have been 4 in a row?
That would have been 4 in a row. Yeah.
So yeah, that's all right. You're 3-1 in your last 4.
Yeah, we'll take that.
And they're all plus money, right?
They are.
They're all plus money. So this is the perfect buy low spot. If you guys want to tail, you lost last week, jump back on the train this week.
I'm trying to think.
Parlay.
I'm trying to think of maybe another leg to throw in here just so it's not sitting around particularly even money. I don't want to necessarily get greedy either.
Yeah.
God, the rest of these fights are just not safe parlay fights, man. It's like,
nah.
Man. Teixeira Tafa is minus 800 to not go the distance.
It's not even worth it, bro.
I agreed. I think we'll call it there. I don't really see anything else standing out. So Cody Steele money line, and then Jimmy Crute Bellato does not go the distance. We'll call it our safe parlay at minus 101. I'll put that in the comments, but we'll have some work to do, man. The cycle just has not been natural with us, but maybe we can find some points.
Yeah, we gotta lock one in confidently this stream, bro.
Yeah,
the process has not worked when we've been like, we're not sure, and then we jump off and we put one in the next day. Let's fucking rip a cycle with confidence. I got a few options written down on each outcome here.
Well, I'm also going to throw this at you. We as a show, we put that Span sub. McGee sub two-legger for 71-1 together, not in the cycle format.
That was our biggest hit of all time.
It was. And it's like, do we not want to force that if we see some sort of other pattern that we like particularly here?
Yeah.
It's worth a shot. So what are some long shots in general that we're feeling?
All right. I want to build a cycle, bro. I can't.
Okay.
Let's build a cycle.
Well, we've talked plenty of KOs, decisions, and subs. I don't think it's like last week where we're kind of hunting for a particular method.
Right. It's so crazy because I have a lot of these written down. You know what? What's insane is I kind of want to go. I kind of want to go Cong by knockout in the cycle.
Who? Oh, Wang. Yeah, dude. We have believed in this girl, right? We have believed in Wang Cong, the Joker, the aura. I felt like she was dominating her last fight. If we throw her back in there and she ends up cashing a successful cycle lay for us, that is us sticking to our guns, and I think it's poetic in a way. I think she's one of my favorite KOs on the entire card.
All right, here's what we're doing. Let's roll with that one.
Okay.
Hold on. Let's see what the comments think. Guys, let us know in the comments if you hate it or love it.
Can we throw the safe parlay up there, Matty? Just so everybody, I got it in the comments.
Yeah, Mike or Brad, if you guys. Oh,
there it is. That's our safe parlay minus 101.
All right, we're going Wang Cong by KO plus 250. It's the first leg of the cycle. Well, possibly the first. I kind of want to stick to my guns here and go Cody Steele by sub, bro.
I'm okay with that.
Because if I don't go Steele by sub, I'm going to end up going Tatiana. And I know you're not aligned there.
Yeah, let me double check. So Tatiana subs 3-1, right? Let me just for shits and giggles see what my model's got it at. Yeah. Because I haven't bet the Weili fight. I haven't bet anything in it yet. So it's not like I'm going against myself.
Look at the comments on the female on the Wang Cong. But look, this is the time everyone jumps off of it and it smacks, right? Like that's what people don't get is this is a chick. I know this chick at Fighting Nerds, but she's going up a weight class and she's fighting this chick who is pissed off from her last fight. Who was dominated and got caught and submitted. And I kind of feel like this is the great buy low spot.
It's one of the best buy low spots we're going to get all year. I mean, Bruno Brazil dominates Molly McCann in London. Wang just missed the boat. And by the way, Bruno's striking defense just 51%. It's analytically not very good.
Yeah. And honestly, it's like it's not really like Bruno can. I don't think she can get takedowns or like stop this fight from being on the feet.
Yeah. Fighting Nerds aside, are we forgetting that she lost handily at distance 2 fights ago to Loma Lookboonme? Like, are we forgetting that?
Yeah. All right. So assuming we go Cody by sub, Cong by TKO.
I threw one guy where you and I were both like, darn, that's a pretty good look for decision was Jake Matthews. Is the guy
I know it's right here in front of me and I'm like avoiding it, but it keeps staring at me.
Has Prado ever been finished as a pro in any fashion?
Zero. It makes all the sense in the world. I think the problem is I just keep looking back at that Semmelsberger fight.
Yeah.
Another option I honestly don't hate, and I might even go with, is Kevin Jousset by points.
Yeah, I don't have a super definitive take there, but my worry is that the data is so small on Micallef. What if he TKOs him out of there? Because he just can't hang a distance at all. You know, it's like that's the sort of scary part you get into with that area of the card.
Yeah. I mean, Jake Matthews makes all the sense in the world.
This is it was a number you told me you liked earlier, and I said I didn't have a particularly strong lean on method of victory. Jack Jenkins' decision, you said plus 370 was kind of interesting. I know you like Santos, but you were telling me if you were going to back Jack, that would be the way you'd do it.
Yeah. I'm looking at Jousset right now. I just want to see. I mean, he's 5-1 on fights that go the distance. He's okay. And the one loss he had was a split, so he's pretty damn good on fights that go the distance.
Yeah.
Beat Kenan Song by decision. Yeah, but it's also against the Australian. No, yeah, it is.
Aren't they both? Well, I mean, Jouset's French, but he trains at City Kickboxing.
Right,
so.
right. Yeah. I think Jake Matthews makes more sense. Let me just
interesting. A couple comments like Jousset KO in that fight, and it's just I have a hard time finding a lean one way or another. My stock.
You know what's crazy is Park by points was another one. The first fight of the night that I said I liked.
Yep. Yeah, that was definitely there. I just have no idea what to me that feels like. Honestly, spinning a roulette wheel, which is a little bit more in your wheelhouse than mine, but.
Yeah.
If you throw Matthew, the thing that I also would hate for you is if you got burned where you can actually lay it down if the numbers are worse, because Matthews by points at plus 115. If that ends up being like plus 105 at a different book, it makes a big difference.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna go Matthews, bro. I just think can he just be an intelligent fighter for us and just control this fight with the wrestling, bro?
We'll never forgive him if he. So you're throwing this in there with Steele sub, which is plus 380. That's a good number.
Yeah, so we're getting great numbers on the other two legs. So it's like it almost makes sense to go Matthews decision at plus 120.
It's 35-1, and I think especially for a consensus of what we were looking at, because so. Yeah, no, I prefer Wang KO to Topuria KO, right? Because you and I were both leaning Topuria KO, but the number's not great.
Yeah, I mean it's almost double the number. I'm looking at my local here to see what this will be in Florida. All right, let's see what Matthews is. You're not gonna believe what the number is on Matthews, bro.
What is it?
Minus 105.
Oh, that's killer.
That's 25 cents on the fucking dollar, bro.
That's killer.
That's
what I was afraid of.
It's almost like telling me to go a different route.
So I mean, yeah, it's up to you. I almost feel like the decision is weirdly the hardest leg to come up with because there were a couple subs I like.
I hate the decision leg.
Decision stuff.
Let's think about the decision legs that we've hit out of the cycles, right?
Yeah.
We always take a technically good fighter against a durable opponent.
Yes.
And it always smacks, you know? And I feel like that's what we're somewhat getting with Jake Matthews.
Yes. The technically superior fighter against a guy that's hard to finish. That's exactly. The leg. Or woman in the case of Eduardo Maura back a few weeks ago.
I could get Kevin Jousset at plus 155 here in Florida.
So Jousset decision is plus 155?
Yeah.
That number's even worse relative to the other one. It's like,
no,
isn't it like
it's plus 165 on FanDuel.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
I still just have a gut feeling about Micallef in that fight.
Yeah, I almost want to go to the main event for a decision. It'll be a nice sweat at least.
Yeah, I mean, like, so Strickland decision. What is?
Dude, you know it's crazy. You know it's crazy that we're not even thinking about.
Yeah,
is the Suarez decision, dude?
Yeah, I
know you're on the Weili side, but Suarez decision, you can get plus 3. I can get plus 325 on that in Florida. I think that's even better.
So Suarez decisions plus 325 there.
Yeah,
let's see what I've got it at.
It's either 3-1 or plus 370 on FanDuel.
I've got it at plus 315 Suarez decision. So
dude, I don't hate that. Weili is not not easy to finish, dude.
What if I told you though? I've got Weili decision at plus 215.
Yeah,
I know.
What do you have Suarez? What do you have Suarez decision modeled at?
Plus 2. I just gave it to you. Plus 2. What was it?
So there's value on it.
I did show an inch of value. I have it plus 315, so it sneaks in.
Okay.
It sneaks in. Weili's a better value, but I understand you want to go bigger number.
Right.
Jenkins' decision is a lock.
Honestly, that one's growing on me right now.
I love Jack Farr, dude. I love him in that fight.
Let me take a second look here because that's starting to stick out to me right now.
What is it? What's the number at your book?
Plus 375.
Oh, it's even better than it is at FanDuel.
That might be the move, bro. He's at home, right?
Yes. Come on, let's
Again.
get some home cooking.
Mm.
It lets you lower your stake too, because Jenkins points, if you play that with Steele, Sub, and Wang, it's going to be a big one.
Bro, I might do this. This is going to be a big payout. Let's take a look. All right. 73-1 in Florida.
It's 78-1 on FanDuel. 78-1 on FanDuel.
That's not bad. That's not bad, all things considered.
Yeah, I mean, on a week, if we're not, that's to me, it's either Matthews or Jenkins, and that Matthews number available to you, probably I would not take myself -105.
I kind of liked Jenkins by decision. Like, he even took a long time to get going against Herbert Burns. Like,
he did.
He's not seeking the finish. Like, he's being smart.
So how do you get a finish in UFC? You either get knockdowns. Typically, he had 2 knockdowns in that fight against Burns, but when he was exhausted, he hasn't dropped anyone else. No submission attempts. So Santos is kind of a hard guy to finish anyway.
This is growing on me a lot right now.
Yeah.
I think
it might be sweaty. Matty, it might be sweaty. It might be a split. It could be really, really sweaty, but I think that's a good number available to you. I really like Jenkins to win that fight. I hadn't really thought about a method of victory, but Jenkins doesn't have a lot of tools to finish, guys, so it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I think Hayjive's on the Santos sub.
That's probably the one finishing outcome I would favor among all of them, but I still don't think it's particularly likely.
Yeah.
We got a thumbs up. Jenkins decision, thumbs up. We had another guy say it was a lock, so it seems like the crowd likes Jenkins' decision a lot more than Matthews too.
Yeah, I just think relative to the odds, right? Like, Matthews could screw us. It'll be the easiest leg and it'll lose. Whereas if Jenkins could get like a split decision, in Australia, I could see that.
Yeah.
He's 4-0 on fights that have go the distance, bro. Jenkins is? Yeah.
Warjack
Let's do it, bro.
Let's do it. And it's an all
not going to think twice about it. I'm in.
Yeah, let's do it. We need to be more confident. You told me you love Jenkins points as we were talking about it. We talked about all 3 of these angles. Let's run it, bro. Let's get this over to Brad or Mike so we can get the graphic going for everybody before we hop out of here. We're going Jenkins decision plus 370. We're going Steele sub plus 385.
Yeah.
It is plus 385 on FanDuel, right? That's plus 380. Plus 380. And then Wang KO. I love going back to Wang KO, dude. Because she let everybody down as bettors. There's the
I agree. And everyone's pushing back against it.
Yeah.
It does scare me a little because I just respect fighting nerds and Brazil's look decent, but
she's moving up.
One thing we know, Wang's gonna stay in your face. Like, she's gonna stay in her face and see and search for it.
I love it. I love it, dude. I love it. I will absolutely 100% tailing as soon as we get off this air. That's the type of energy we need. We've been unsure, and then we built it off air. I love building this, and we got some agreement in chat here, some thumbs up. So that's great news to see. We'll throw this up here before we get out of here, guys. But we're going with Jack Jenkins decision plus 370, Cody Steele submission plus 380, Wang Cong KO back to the well plus 250. You throw it all together, it's about 78-1 on FanDuel, and you probably want to lock that. Now, I've noticed when we give out a cycle on this show, all the legs tend to go down right after we give out the cycle. You notice that, Matty?
Yeah.
So we got to get on it quickly. I love that cycle. I'll be tailored as soon as we get off here. Again, my safe parlay as well. I'm going Cody Steele money line, and then Jimmy Crute, Rodolfo Bellato to not go the distance. So there's our cycle graphic. There's our safe parlay. We're rocked and ready to go from Sunday or Saturday from Sydney. Then we'll have the big game, Super Bowl on Sunday. Matty's Birds against the Kansas City Chiefs. Should be a fun weekend, guys. Thanks so much for joining us.
Lock in. Jalen Hurts over 36.5 rushing yards. Bet the fucking house on it.
Let's go.